Hey guys, today we are going to be looking at how I generally edit a picture in Lightroom. So of course, to start with, I import the picture into Lightroom, and this is the picture that we are going to be editing today. So once I imported it, I go into the develop settings. So once I go here, the first thing that I tend to do is crop it. So here I know that the picture is going to be exclusively for Instagram, and as we know, the 4:5 ratio is the best one for Instagram. So I select that, and once it's selected, I crop it however I want it to be. So, and that looks about right to me. Yep. So the cropping doesn't end here. I tend to go back and readjust the crop if I want to later, but for now this is like pretty good to work with. So after I crop the image, the first thing that I do in terms of editing is I sharpen the picture, and so generally I go up to like 70 to 80, so about 75 should be good. And so to talk about the settings that I've used here, I've used the lowest ISO possible because I was shooting with a tripod, and I used an f-stop of 2.8, and the shutter speed doesn't matter since I used a tripod, and I was shooting with a macro lens. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but for now the sharpening 75 should be fine, and it shouldn't really introduce any noise here because I shot with the ISO of 50. But if I had shot with a higher ISO, I might do some noise reduction too, but here it's not necessary. So 75 looks about good to me. So after that's done, I go into lens correction, I remove chromatic aberration and enable profile correction. Right now the enable profile correction is not going to do much, because generally it is to like adjust for distortion and stuff like that. If I shot with my 24-05 lens or a wider lens, then there's some distortion that goes on here, and this is what it fixes. And here it's not fixing much, but I tend to enable it anyway in case I run into any. And I'm not messing with this any further. It's looks fine to me right now. Now comes the bigger changes. So the first thing that I do is I mess with the whites and see what's up. So here, so the whites is the first thing that I generally change up, because that tends to be the biggest change that I make to my pictures, and I tend to overdo it. So I recommend you starting low and maybe go higher as you want to. And yeah, about 65-70 looks good to me. And here, if we click this one, the enable or show highlight clipping, you can see that these are like clipped out, but that's fine because they are pretty much like white space whether I'm editing it or not, so that's completely fine with me. So after I do the whites, I mess with the shadows here, because the blueberries, as you see, are like they're falling way into the shadows and I want more details there, so I'm gonna mess with the shadows a little bit. Yeah, about 50 looks good to me. And highlights I don't touch much nowadays, unless I want to like recover some details in the highlight area, which I don't really. Its highlight can be at 0 for this image. So now blacks. Blacks I can increase a bit. So if you decrease blacks, it makes the blacks darker. If you increase the blacks, it makes it brighter. So I'm increasing it a little bit, because I don't want too many murky shadows here. Yeah, that looks good to me. Now the texture here is like a new function. What it does is it is like a more refined version of sharpening. So if I want like even more sharpness, then I increase it a little bit, which I don't mind. So about 10-15, but depends on the image. Here it does not need that much sharpening. It seems fine to me even now. But if your image for any reason is not like up to the mark in terms of sharpness, I would recommend you increasing it further, but for now it looks pretty good. Clarity, I don't think we are going to look at that for today. Even dehaze, that's not a problem. There's no hazing issues here. The contrast looks totally fine to me, so I'm not going to mess with that. Now the vibrance, So let's see what it does. So vibrance is basically like it's the amount of colors that are present in the picture. What saturation is the total number of colors. Vibrance only affects the predominant colors. So here the predominant colors are like the purple, the blue, the green, and also the orange. I think this is an orange, the brown board, that is, they are like kind of oranges. So those are the predominant colors, right? So if I decrease it totally, it's not completely out of color. There is still a little bit of color left. So it's affecting the dominant colors in the picture, but saturation affects all the colors. So there is no color left. So I don't typically mess with the saturation. I just increase or decrease the vibrance a little bit. So here I'm increasing it slightly. So about 15. Yeah, 15 looks good to me. And I'm controlling this with my arrow keys, by the way. So if I go to a slider and I use my arrow keys, it like changes it by 5, increases or decreases it by 5. So in case you're wondering how that works. Now the colors. Yeah, colors, I'm just messing with the blues here, and that looks about right to me. Yep. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna recover the shadows here a little bit more, but not too much. So here the changes are like more prominent, unlike this in the basic section. If you make changes, it's subtler. In the tone curve, if you make changes, it's like much more intense. So if I increase the lights here, so it's like super intense, whether I'm increasing it or decreasing. So I'm not gonna mess with that too much. Maybe I'm gonna do the lights a little bit. So yeah, that looks about right to me. Yeah, I'm gonna increase the vibrance by 5 a little bit more. So when I'm editing pictures, it's like a kind of a back and forth thing. So it depends on how I feel, right? So so there is no like one process to edit all pictures of mine. I just have like a style I work with. Like I tend to have overblown highlights, and that's what's happening here. And this is kind of how I do it. And there are always like last minute changes that I make. I increase or decrease the whites by 5 or 10. It's not too big, but I can still see a difference. So I do that. And here I think I want to highlight the blues a little bit more. I don't want it to be like a warm picture. So I'm gonna decrease the temperature a little bit. Yeah, about 4700 looks pretty good to me. It was at 4850, I think. If you double click it, it goes to the default settings. So that's what I did there. So yeah, 4700 looks pretty good to me. In case you can't see it in the video, you can see it better on like a larger screen. So you can open Instagram on a large screen and see it on your laptop or something, where you can see like the smaller differences. Let's see. So I always zoom in to see like if there are like any details that are that I'm messing with, that I'm not noticing. And yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So once I'm done with this, actually I'm going to increase the shadows a bit more. Yeah, maximum looks fine to me, because shadows are making like a large change. Not sure if you noticed that, but it's pretty large. So yeah, about 100 looks pretty good. Yeah, that's about it. So this is where we started with. I'm gonna do the crop. So this is where we started, and here is the end. So once I finish editing, all that's left for me to do is export this, and this looks good to me. Here if we go to, okay, I usually do it by keyboard shortcuts, so so I'm still searching for how to do it in a way where I can show it to you on screen. So here if you right click the picture that you edited and go to, where's export? Yeah, export and export. And here are the settings that I usually use. File naming I don't really mess with too much. It's not a video. So file settings, it's like the biggest thing that I mess with. So JPEG format, which is like the widely recognized format, and this is gonna be for Instagram, so there's that. So quality, I do it to maximum, and color space is sRGB, and image sizing is 300. I don't really resize to fit anything, so it's completely fine there. And I do a little bit of output sharpening, so I click sharpen for screen and amount is standard. It's barely noticeable, but it's still there. And metadata, I click all metadata, so in case I want to refer back to the settings, like I generally post my camera settings and stuff on my posts, right? So for me to refer back to the post, I tend to keep it all. I think my last export I did not keep it because I was sending it to clients or something, but here I generally keep all metadata if I'm doing it for Instagram. Watermarking, I don't watermark your pictures, as you know. And post processing, which is like after it got exported, what do you want it to do? I say show an explorer so that I can see where it's at. And yeah, export. And I'm gonna say blueberry milkshake. Yeah, wonderful sound. Yeah, it's right here. So for my before pic, Lightroom always remembers what I've done here unless I delete it. So this is my static picture, right? So I generally just click this and I export it again and have it as my raw unedited image, so you can see the before and after. Again, it's always fun to see the before and after. Yeah, that's about it. Was this helpful to you guys? Did you find anything useful that you didn't know before? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching it, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.